Hi, my name's Penny, and as usual, I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically today, what I'm going to do is talk about some of the new releases in December that are coming out, and also some of my new discoveries in November, so books that I've recently added to my Goodreads to read list. Now, I will say I don't actually have many new releases that I'm excited about in December. There are more that I've seen, but none that are ones that I want to read, which is good because there were far too many in November, so I need a break. But there are two that I want to talk about that are coming out in December. So the first book is one that's being released on the 3rd of December, and that is Anyone by Charles Soule. So this is a book where it has become possible to transfer one person's consciousness to another human body. It talks about the chaos that ensues after this becomes possible. Now, this fully made me think of Dollhouse, especially near the end of Dollhouse. So Dollhouse is a TV show by Joss Whedon, and it has Eliza Dushku. Is that how you say her name? Anyway, Faith from Buffy is in that show, and I really love Dollhouse, and so I was interested to see a book that kind of dealt with some similar concepts. Then the other new release in December that I'm excited about is coming out on the 17th of December, and that is the Unification War, which is a Firefly graphic novel series, and this is volume 2, so I never heard about volume 1. I had been trying to read some of the Firefly graphic novels, but I always find it really hard to keep track of these kind of series because on Goodreads they're never listed clearly as a series, because this is kind of like a spin-off series, but it's still the same series. It's the same with the Buffy graphic novels. Like, they quite often, every season, will have a different series grouping within Goodreads, but it makes it very hard to find out, well, are there more seasons? Or same with this Firefly one. I was reading the Firefly graphic novels and then they just stopped, but it looks like actually we've started like a new series set in the same world around the same characters. So Firefly, if you don't know, I just mentioned Dollhouse by Joss Whedon, but Firefly is another Joss Whedon show, kind of like a cross between a western and a sci-fi. This crew on the spaceship, they're kind of criminals, but they're kind of the good guys. I love all the characters. It's a really great show. Unfortunately, it was cancelled after one season, but there are graphic novels of varying quality. So now that I know there's the Unification War one, I will try and track it down and see if I can read it. Okay, so that's all the new releases. Now let's talk about the 15 books that I have added to my Goodreads in the last month. So firstly we have There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This is a YA thriller that was released in September 2017, so a little while ago, and people have been talking about it, people have been enjoying it, but I wasn't particularly interested until I heard Becca in the Books review it. She gave it a good review. She said also that a little part of it is written from the killer's perspective, which I thought sounded intriguing. And so I was finally convinced to add it to my Goodreads to read list. This is one that I probably won't be reading particularly quickly, but I am interested in reading it. Also, because it's a thriller, I haven't even looked at the synopsis. I haven't really listened when people have talked about it, because I just think that's the best way to go into thrillers, is not really knowing what they're about. It makes it hard to figure out which ones are going to be the good ones, but... Oh, then the next one is one that I'm really excited about. It is called This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mottar. I probably said that wrong. Again, I don't know much about this other than it's got some kind of time travel in it. I believe that there are two characters trying to get the timeline back to the timeline that benefits them, and they don't really care about the rest of the world, like let it burn. But also I believe there's some kind of sapphic romance going on. I've seen some people absolutely rave about this, particularly Katie Tastic and also Books and Pieces. It's definitely one that I want to be picking up early in the new year. I won't have time until then, but I definitely want to read it. So I'm somewhat confused by the next one because it was only released last month, but I never heard anything about it, and it is Life and Limb by Jennifer Robison. So Jennifer Robison wrote the Chisuli Chronicles as well as the Tiger and Dell series, both of which I really loved. So I'm excited to read something else by her. However, even though it's a fantasy, it's kind of saying it's like a Western fantasy, and the cover does not look like a Jennifer Robison book, so I'm a little bit confused by the branding, whether this is really something that's going to be for me, but I'll give it a go. Tried to read the synopsis, and I don't really understand what's going on, but I really like Jennifer Robison, so I want to read it. So the next book that I added to my Goodreads to read list won't actually be released until June next year, and that is A Sleight of Shadows by Kat Howard. So this would be the sequel to An Unkindness of Magicians, which I only just read, and then I found out there was a sequel, and I don't really know what the sequel will be about because the first book kind of seemed to wrap things up. There was this big competition between the different mages in this underworld magical society, and everything wrapped up pretty well, but still, it was a really interesting world and I love the characters, so I am excited to get more in the same world. Oh, then we actually have some physical ones because I've been getting better about when I acquire physical books, remembering to put them on my Goodreads to read list. So these are all books, well, these are all books that I picked up from a little library up the road from my house. So I got The Kneebone Boy by Alan Potter. I don't know much about this other than it's giving me hardcore series of unfortunate events vibes. We got these orphans, they're weird, some stuff happens. It's a middle grade, I believe. That's what the sticker means because it's an old library book and the sticker tells you that it's the highest level of middle grade, so close to my reading level, right? So I've got that. I also got Cant Fear by Carol Ellis, which is like a point thriller. Well, it's a scholastic thriller, actually, but it's a little YA thriller. I used to read these kind of books all the time when I was a YA demographic type person, so I'm excited to reread a bunch of these kind of books that I used to read at some point. I also have a couple of New Zealand books, so at some point I'm also going to do some reading of some New Zealand books. I definitely want to read the Alex series by Tessa Duda, which is all about this girl who I believe is a swimmer, goes to school really close to where I used to live. And this one, I think she goes to the Olympic Games, but I believe this is like the 4th book in the series, so it won't be the first one I'm reading. And then also by Tessa Duda, I found this book at a thrift shop for $2, and that is Too Close to the Wind and Other Stories. This is a short story anthology, which, I mean, I don't normally like short story anthologies. However, I believe most of these stories will be set in New Zealand, and that's not something I find that often, and it's kind of nice to read books set in my own area, so I decided to pick it up because $2, why not, right? And then, in that same kind of vein, I added onto my Goodreads to read list Night Race to Cowboy by Tessa Duda, so the same author. This book I kind of had this vague memory of reading when I was in primary school, and then recently we were at Tawharanui, which has a view of Cowboy Island, and it reminded me of this book, and I thought I really need to try and track it down. I know the library does have it, so I can borrow it from there. So when I do my New Zealand book reading, I need to collect some more to read, really. If you have any New Zealand book recommendations, I know as the New Zealander I should perhaps be good at this, but not necessarily. So if you have any New Zealand books that you think are really good, recommend them to me down in the comments. Otherwise, I'm just going to try and collect the best ones I can, and at some point, I'll read them all. The next book that I added to my Goodreads to read list is Kill the Boy Band by Goldie Moldovsky. I think that's how you say it. Probably not. Why am I so bad at names? So this is a book Gabby Reeds was talking about recently as one of her favorites, and it sounded interesting. I believe it's some fangirls who accidentally end up kidnapping one of the members of this boy band that they really like, and things kind of get difficult from there. I believe it's kind of a black comedy, so sounds interesting. So the next book on the list is The Passengers by John Mars. So this is a book I've seen a few people talking about recently, most notably Tia and All the Books. I believe what happens is this guy hacks 8 self-driving cars to be on a collision course, and the public has to choose who's going to survive. It just sounds like a really dark concept and a little bit Black Mirror, so it's something that I'm very interested in picking up. So next I added Willful Machines by Tim Florine to my Goodreads list. This is a book where scientists have created this artificial human called Charlotte, but then she escapes and ends up forming a relationship with this boy that she stumbles across. This was recommended to me by the Story Keeper, so thank you for the recommendation. I love AI stuff, so hopefully I will love this too. I was a little bit concerned that it might be a little bit romance heavy, but it seems like there'll be more to it than that, so fingers crossed the romance won't be too much for me. Then also I added to my list the Immortal List by Chloe Benjamin. So this is a book that Zoe reads, has been talking about. What happens is some siblings have their fortune told, and they're all told the day that they're going to die, and it just kind of looks at how that prediction affects their life. But some of the ways that Zoe Reeves was talking about it made it sound like it's quite philosophical, analytical. I don't know what the right word is, but it sounded like it would be something that I would enjoy. And I also added the third book from the Truly Devious series, which is The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. This is coming out in January, and I cannot wait until it comes out. I'm going to need to try and get it as quickly as possible because the last two books have ended on massive cliffhangers, and I really just want to know what is going on. There's so much to the story. The characters are really interesting. Basically, we have this girl named Stevie who's really interested in true crime and wants to become a detective. So she's gone to this really fancy school where they let you develop your special interests. And 50 years ago at the school, there was a murder, so she's trying to solve that murder, as well as now some new murders have occurred at the school, and so she's trying to solve those murders as well. And she's quite involved with all the people that are part of whatever's going on with that as well. It's a great series. I really love it. I definitely recommend the audiobooks, and I can't wait to finish off the series. Then lastly, I also added Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, an introvert story. So this is just a graphic novel by Debbie Tung, all about being an introvert. I think it's more of an autobiography. Tia and all the books recommended it to me on my books about introversion video, so I read 8 books about introversion and did a bit of a review on all of those. And then Tia recommended this one, which I haven't read, so I'm gonna pick that up soon. I've requested it from the library. Hopefully it won't take very long to read since it's a graphic novel, and then I can see what I think of that. So those are all the books that I am excited about that are coming out in December, or books that I have recently discovered. Let me know if you have read any of them. Do you think I'm gonna like them, or should I just sneakily take them back off that Goodreads to read list? Or let me know if there's any releases in December that you're excited about. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.